thinking, and really, all I wanted to know, and it sort of is, the genesis was yesterday, is what are you fascinated by right now? Because I know you're always working on something, or you're always drilling into something.
Yeah.
What are you fascinated by right now?
Well, it's interesting because the common theme that we've been hearing from all the talks today, which is the passion isn't some manufactured thing,
right,
where you sort of find the passion and do what you're passionate. You know, passion is an output, not an input. And what we hear is somebody finds an obsession for something, and that then becomes their passion. And the same is definitely true, I'm sure, for you, and definitely true for me. So the thing that I'm sort of obsessing about right now is friendship. There's an entire industry to help us be better leaders. There's an entire industry to help us be better parents. There's an entire industry to help us eat better, exercise better, sleep better. And yet, there's barely anything on how to be a friend. And if you think about all the mental health challenges that so many of us are facing today, whether it's coping with stress, depression, anxiety, addiction, even obsession with longevity, friendship is the ultimate biohack that literally fixes all those things.
You know, it's interesting that you said this. So I've always felt like, you know, I'm not a very superstitious person, grew up very religious, but I do believe in some sort of magic in the universe. And every time I bump into you, I feel like we're thinking about the same thing, but on a slightly different path.
And usually other people are forced to listen to us just talk about that
and
slightly different
again,
path.
So I apologize. But the reason this fascinated me is because I've been thinking a lot about friendship and what it means. And a friend of mine actually said to me on a trip recently, she said, in successful spaces, oftentimes people will use the word sacrifice. You know, we heard many people, we heard Martin, we heard so many people up on the stage saying sacrifice, 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 sacrifice. And she said one of the most powerful things ever to me. She said, when we say we've sacrificed something for our career, we shouldn't be afraid to put a name to who that sacrifice was, because oftentimes it was the people in our lives that we call friends.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, have you been thinking about that? Like, what is the balance? What is the confluence? Like, how do you think of friendship and then the sacrifice that brings you here to sit with people where you may make new friends or not?
Well, I think definitely for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, but definitely for me, I think the sacrifice was lopsided. And I think, especially for high performers who I think later on in life, you start to realize that that network of friends sometimes isn't there because you've sacrificed. You know, the number of us who have canceled on friends because a meeting comes up, because they'll understand, right? And yet the reverse is very rarely true. That we'll say to somebody for a meeting, can we meet on Friday instead of Thursday? Because in my calendar, we wouldn't say it, but in my calendar is a friend. And definitely for me, the times where I have tripped, slipped, fell, hit rock bottom, felt alone, any of those spaces, my work wasn't going to rescue me. And it was by the grace of some higher power that there was always a friend who saw it and recognized it in me, who picked me up. And so I realized that we talk about investing, we talk about, you know, and this is a different kind of investment. You and I were talking about it the other day, you know, which is people are moving in the United States, you know, people are moving from California and New York to Texas and Florida to avoid paying taxes because they want to save time. And yet, where else, I want it to be the reverse. Like, I'm not worried about like saving the money, you know, to be in a place I don't want to live.
Right.
I want to live with the people I love, and if it costs more, and by the way, by cost, I mean that maybe I won't achieve that thing, or maybe I'll miss that deadline, or maybe I'll miss that quarter. You know, it's a different kind of sacrifice. We think of sacrifice as always against people, but I can make a sacrifice for my career, for my friends. And it's about striking that right balance. Because your friends will be there for you, your work won't.
Yeah, you see, I love that line. Your friends will be there for you, your work won't. I was talking to a friend about this conversation, and my friend was like, what do you love about Simon so much? And I said, what I love about Simon is this, I feel like you're a truffle pig of like ideas that will shape the world. And what I mean by that is, like...
So I'm French.
Yeah, whatever you choose to take from it, take from it. What I choose to say by saying that is,
Thank you.
I love seeing what you're sniffing around in because I believe it's connected to something far greater.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not the truffle, but it's the meal that is now going to influence and the restaurant that it's now going to shape. You have that brain. It's friendship, yes, but why would you care about friendship? Friendship is like, yeah, go out with your friends, hang out with your friends. Why would you care about friendship on like a global scale? What's in it, Simon? What's happening?
So let me take one step back and try and get to an answer. Our understanding of addiction largely comes from an experiment that was done, I think, in like the 50s or 60s, where they put a rat in a cage, and there was one thing of water where it was plain water and one thing that was laced with drugs.
Right.
And in short order, the rat discovered the drug-laced beverage and loved it, drank more and more until it killed itself. And our understanding of addiction largely comes from this study. There was a guy named, I think his name was Bruce Alexander, who said, hold on, it's flawed. The whole study is flawed.
Oh.
Because rats, like us, are social animals. And we put a rat by itself in solitude. Of course it became an addict. But that's not what you're supposed to do with social animals. So he recreated the experiment where he put, like, first of all, he put lots of rats in the cage.
No way.
So it was social, community. They put like wheels and mazes, and they were having kids and babies, and two waters, a plain water and the drug-laced water. And they could see from the data, they knew which ones and they all tried enough of the drug-laced water to get addicted.
Right.
But they didn't. Their taking in of the water declined, and they only drank the plain water, which starts to give evidence that if we have close friendships and if we live in community, perhaps we're less susceptible to all addiction. And I know that there's a lot being talked about the addiction of social media, the addiction of cell phones, which is true. Which is true. It is a highly dopamine-producing device, and that it's causing loneliness. And I would argue that if we worked on the friendships, and more important, if we taught our children how to be friends, that perhaps they are less likely to get addicted. And I think...
Yeah, that's...
And I think... So when you talk about what's the global responsibility,
yeah.
we're teaching people how to do everything. You know, we're finding the hacks for everything. The one thing we aren't doing is the old-fashioned, hard, slow thing of making friends.
So, okay, so here's what I've been thinking about. Over the past 2 years, I've been traveling, spending most of my time traveling. And in that time, I've been thinking about how you maintain a friendship, how you keep a friendship and how you build a friendship. And in that, I came to realize most of our friendships, we sort of leave to coincidence. I bumped into this person, I went to the same school as them, we were in the same church, the same company, and that defines our friendships. And to what you're saying now, working on, I realized that no one has ever taught us how to work on a friendship, like actually work on a friendship, you know?
And most people think they're good friends. If you ask most people, are you a good friend? Most people would say, yeah, I'm a good friend. And so I said, have you sacrificed that meeting to hang out with a friend? Do you call your friends on their birthday and sing them happy birthday, or do you just put a thing on social media saying happy birthday because you saw everybody else put a thing on social media? You know, when a friend is depressed, do you go over to their house and climb into bed with them and sit and watch movies and eat ice cream all day and be depressed with them? You know, have you done all those things? Have you ever said to your friend, I love you? Not love ya, not love you, I love you. Have you done those things? Are you a good friend? And the way to prove that those things matter is, has anybody ever done that for you? When you've been depressed, have they come and just sat and been depressed with you? Not trying to fix you, not trying to pull you out of the mud, just been depressed with you. Have they said, I love you to you?
Right.
I learned this from a friend of mine he's a warrior. He's active duty military, multiple tours. He's risked his life to save the lives of others. He is a badass. He is a warrior. And you know, you and I have colleagues and coworkers. They have brothers and sisters. And I remember the first time he called me brother. I remember it was real. Hey, brother, you know? But what really stood out was the first time we got off the phone, and he ended the phone call with, I love you. Again, not love ya, not love you, I love you. And I remember what that felt like. And men definitely, don't do this with each
What did
other.
it feel like?
I felt hugged. I felt safe. I felt that I knew that I could tell him and be anything, and he wouldn't judge me or look down on me. And it was so powerful that I decided to start experimenting and saying it to the people who I loved. And I have some friends who are good people, kind people, generous people, but most would describe them as cold.
Yeah.
They're not warm people. And I remember, I'm thinking of one friend in particular, and I decided to say, like, I left his house, and I was like, I love you. And I remember watching him sort of be struck by it.
Yeah.
In very short order, maybe 2 or 3 times after I saw him, he started saying, I love you back. He started hugging me in a way that he's never hugged me. I gave him a kiss on the cheek, he kissed me back. That's where the line is. But you live a life where you're away a lot, you're on the road a lot. I mean, your career necessitates you to be on the road.
Right.
How has that affected your friendships? More important, what have you done to maintain the closeness of those friendships with the crazy life that you live?
I believe in uranium-enriched friendships. That's how I think about it. So I think a friendship, like I've tried to study friendships as much as I can, you know, over the past, maybe like, I've really focused on it over the past like 4 or 5 years. And I remember once I was in an interview and somebody said, hey, what's your goal? What's your dream? It was actually Forbes magazine. And I said, I would love to be successful, but I wish there was a top 10 list for somebody who has a friend's net worth. Because that's honestly what I'm trying to do. And maybe it's confirmation bias, but I find that answer, you know, keeps coming back to me. I was on a trip to Greece a few years ago, and you know, if you've ever been to any of these places where people are on boats and having a great time in the water, it hypnotizes you. And I turned to one of the Greek guys I was with and I said, Nick, if I was trying to get a boat, what boat should I get? And I'll never forget this. His friend jumped in and he said, Ella, Trevor, Ella, let me tell you something. The best boat is your friend's boat. And it was a joke that had so many layers to me, because the one was, yeah, it's true. Like, you know, it is, if you own a boat, there's a lot of stress. You don't want to own a boat unless you really love boats. But the thing I found profound was the fact that everybody who has a boat needs friends to be on that boat with them. And if everybody works to get the boat, no one has time to have friends to come on the boat with them. And every boat I know is full of friends who are on that boat.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
You know what I mean? It's like
yeah. And
so to answer your question, so what I've been doing is I recently got back. I just got back from Japan. We did a 10-day trip with 16 of my friends. That group has grown, and all I try to do it is so meticulous, it is meaningful. My friends sometimes get irritated with me because they go like, why are you so controlled about it? And I go, because we have to work on our friendship. I know it seems like it's just gonna happen, but we have to work on it. When are we having this dinner? We have a song that we sing, which is called Are You Ready for the Question? And we sing it maybe like the 4th or 5th night of every hangout.
In the restaurant, you're that table?
Yeah, we sing it. Are you ready for the question? Are you ready for the question? And then we ask ourselves a question that we've been struggling with, because you realize sometimes you can even become a superhero to your own friend group, and then you stop releasing or letting go or digging in or scraping away. And you'll find your friend will be sitting next to you laughing and going through the worst depression they've ever been through in their lives, until you say, hey, is everything okay? What are you struggling with? And then they open up and you go, why didn't you tell me? They go, because I didn't want to burden you. I love you as my friend. And so that's what I try to do more than anything in the world. That's my greatest joy.
That's such a common misunderstanding, Rich. I didn't want to burden you. I didn't want to bother you with my problems. And I think people don't realize that we don't build trust by offering help. We build trust by asking for it. And
whoa, say that again.
We don't build trust by offering help. We build trust by asking for it.
Damn.
And
why is that?
Because it's your example. And I'm sure everyone in this room has had this experience where someone was in pain, didn't call you for fear of bothering you or interrupting you. You're a busy person. And then you find out once they're okay. And again, I'll just speak from personal experience. A friend of mine went through something. He wasn't completely out of it, but he was doing better. And I'm like, haven't talked in a couple of weeks. And he sort of like slowly started to say, I've been struggling.
Yeah.
And I said, why didn't you call me? He says, I didn't want to bother you. And my immediate reaction was, you asshole. How dare you be so selfish to deny me the honor of being there for you in your time of need.
Showing up for you.
And that's what it is. It's the incredible, that's when you know a friend is a friend, when it is an absolute honor to be there at the time they least want to call you.
Do you think that women have a better grasp of friendship than men?
100%. I think for that reason, women make better CEOs. I think I do. I mean, we've heard it from multiple female entrepreneurs on the stage today.
Yeah.
There is a better understanding of the human dynamic.